Good afternoon. I would like to welcome our audience and our eminent speakers. Soon, I will be introducing you, our dear partners, but before, I would like to say a few words about the civil society dialogue. As you know, communication, therefore dialogue, is one of the most important needs and skills of our time. With a healthy and accurate dialogue, you can determine problems, cooperate on solution proposals, and you can benefit from positive outcomes mutually. As we have made a brief introduction yesterday to the topics of inclusive education and early school dropouts, we wanted to put our expertise into action and determine the actual problem in the field to offer our solution proposals. But as a civil society organization, we believe in civil society dialogue and cooperations. That is why we wanted to join our forces with two eminent NGOs to get to know about their best practices and lessons learned. We are grateful for the opportunity to enable us to carry out these cooperations through Civil Society Dialogue Program funded by European Union. And we believe that with more dialogue, we can create a better world. Now, I would like to introduce our dear colleague, Majid Hussein, to tell us about Praxis Europe and how they support right to education in United Kingdom. The floor is yours, Majid.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're well and in good health. It's absolutely lovely to be here with yourselves today at this conference. My name is Majid Hussein. I'm a senior associate at the NGO called Praxis Europe, which is based in Birmingham in West Midlands. So I do have a short presentation that I will share with yourselves just to give you a little bit of insight into Praxis Europe as an NGO and of an organization which delivers multiple different areas of kind of delivery within the third sector, youth, community and voluntary in relation to this particular program, as well as our wider work that we have done over the last decade or so. So I'm just going to share now this presentation with yourselves. So Praxis Europe was actually founded as a community interest company around a decade ago. Now, this is quite important because the founders of the organization had a previous background within this field and they were doing a lot of work within the inner city areas of Birmingham, which is known as the second city in the United Kingdom after London. And Birmingham in itself, as the second city, has a lot of issues such as economic and social deprivation and other challenges that young people have been facing over the previous decades. So the founders of the organization decided to set something up which could tackle various issues around the area and try and meet some of those kind of needs, whether that was in education, training, employment, and use the medium of volunteering an opportunity to allow young people in particular, and also young adults, to access mainstream opportunities and develop themselves and give them a chance to really excel in this particular field and broaden their horizons. So the actual work that was undertaken to engage those hard to reach groups that were suffering from poverty, that were on the fringes of society, that were marginalized. Some of these people were suffering from things like unemployment or skills and other elements around that. The organization basically started to deliver community cohesion and youth and community voluntary work, but then also started to access programs which allowed opportunities across Europe. Now, the core program...
Dear Majid, sorry for interrupting, but may I ask you to speak a bit louder for our audience to hear you better?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better. Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, apologies. Sorry about that. I'll try to speak a bit louder. So the program that they started to access was called Erasmus Plus. So some of you might have heard of that before. It's actually a European Union kind of program which supports NGOs around Europe and also outside of Europe to participate in different activities, whether it's adult education, youth work and mobilities, all sorts of different kinds of things. Now, when Praxis Europe got involved, in these particular programs, they allowed them to kind of like better understand different cultures, faiths, traditions, do cross comparative work across Europe. So learn about what was happening in different parts, for example, Turkey, Sweden, Spain, Portugal, and work with academic institutions and also NGOs and other youth and community voluntary organizations. And this also helped promote integration and respect for people. Now, the organizational ethos is to engage, empower, enrich the lives of people, whether that's locally in the UK as well as in wider areas such as the places that we've been working with across Europe, so that people can develop themselves in terms of their learning, the training that they experience, and also to improve employability skills and hopefully get into employment opportunities. Now, Practice Europe has a core kind of group that it's worked with, mainly from BAME background, which is Black, ethnic, and minority, but also wider backgrounds as well. The commonality that some of these individuals face was quite often disadvantage, economic or social. And Practice Europe has encouraged people to come together, to work together, to develop these things, and provided a platform for individuals to develop themselves, to build trust, respect, and relationships with themselves and practitioners, and also have the opportunity to potentially do things like international travel, meet people from different cultures, and so on. Now, the vision of Praxis is about transformation. So it can be transformation through incremental steps, so small steps leading to larger social transformation. And that is the kind of goal, whether it's localized, national, or global. And it's this progressive attitude actually that's helped Praxis Europe grow, develop a strong relationship with other partners. For example, like in this project, Croatian partners and Turkish partners, as well as other partners around Europe and beyond. Now, actually, also Practice Europe holds the VET Charter. It's a mobility charter which was given to them by the UK National Agency, and they have used this to do a lot of work with vocational education training, particularly working with colleges locally and taking people abroad to experience different opportunities, work experience, and so on in places such as the south of Spain. Now, what are the values? Values form an important part of any organization, wherever it might be, in terms of understanding how an organization operates or works or develops. So you see, within Practice Europe, there are different elements that the organization looks at and what we focus around. And one of those is, for example, excellence and quality. So we look at consulting, encouraging feedback. So when we work with people, whether it's adults or young people, we look at their skill sets and we look at building them. So sometimes a lot of these people, particular backgrounds that they come from, they may not have a strong confidence or interpersonal type skills. So when they come and work with Praxis, whether that's taking part in an international mobility or whether it's coming along and doing a course, working with colleges and so on, the idea is to build them from the ground up and allow them to express themselves in a manner that they might not have had previously, and having their own choice and having the platform where they can actually do that. And that, in essence, will build excellence and quality. It will also build their confidence, self-esteem, motivation, and help them be all that they can be and essentially become more active members of local and wider society. Ambition is important. So with this particular program, we're looking at inclusive education, for example. Now, people from the background, in terms of the people that we work with, often don't have high ambitions or aspirations, so to speak, because they may have had negative experiences within education. For example, some people may be suffering from a disability or some other kind of issue, and they may face barriers such as discrimination. Now, with Praxis, to the mentoring programs, the one-on-one support, the offices at the colleges, and working with students and pupils, and the wider work done nationally and internationally, we've helped kind of like promote that ambition and try to push people to be more ambitious and actually have aspirations that they can move towards, even if it's taking small little steps, you know, little by little, actually developing and building and growing. And so that when they reach that stage where they feel more fulfilled, they can actually help other people develop that also. Now, again, within this program that you've been hearing about since yesterday and over the coming days with the speakers, they'll also talk about inclusiveness within education. Now, we believe in equality and diversity, and we believe in having, working with diverse range of people from different backgrounds with different perspectives. Now, I myself, can vouch for that because I, many years ago came along with Practice Europe on an adult education project in Turkey, in Istanbul. And I had the opportunity to visit the region for the first time and meet people from different backgrounds, different languages, different cultures, experience different things like cuisine and the way of working, looking at adult education, education with young people and inclusiveness. And that really
Majid,
gave me.
dear Majid, sorry once again for interrupting you, but your sound level goes so low to the interpreter, so they cannot translate you right now.
Okay, let me move the screen a bit closer. Can you hear me now?
Can you tell me if you can hear him?
Is it okay?
Dear technical team?
Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
I'm just trying to receive an answer from them. Just maybe keep talking.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so the accountability as well. So I mentioned inclusiveness, accountability, trying to hold people to account, whether that's board members or various partners that we work with, to make sure that the actual target groups that we are working with will receive and benefit from whatever the particular programs are. And also integrity, transparency and honesty. And again, like I mentioned before, equality. Now, one of the key kind of services that Praxis have provided is around mentoring young people and young adults, as well as other people as well. And that one-on-one service has been quite strong in terms of mentoring and helping people develop as individuals who can build themselves and progress in life. And also in the past, in previous projects, we have worked around issues around disability, for example, with other partners, again in Turkey and other parts of the European Union, such as Sweden and a university in Gothenburg, where we shared our kind of learning and working with organizations that focus particularly on the area of disability and other areas as well. And our core work is kind of like focused around improving skill sets. Now, many young adults or people have various kind of experiences at school, and these experiences might be difficult. For example, they may experience bullying or discrimination or barriers to accessing opportunities. And Practice Europe has provided those people with vocational qualification opportunities to go on courses, for example, to travel to Spain and do employability kind of courses, working in garages, in hotels, hospitality industry, mechanic, service-based industries, and really improve their skill set, their work experience, and also their CV development, and so on. And this has really helped them build respect. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these programs have been funded by the Erasmus Plus program, and the organization has worked with a lot of partners across Europe, as well as here, such as British Council and the Southern City College in Birmingham. And the main aim is to make sure that the organization has high standards in terms of the deliverables. So one example of a previous project is a transnational cooperation that we did a couple of years ago with various partners focused on issues like education, immigration, looking at the experiences of people in educational areas of Italy, Spain and the UK. And this project was called Open Learning Experience. And it allowed practitioners to share what was happening in terms of people who were maybe new to a country and might have been suffering from various barriers, and how they developed, what kind of tools could be used, for example, games, how games development was used to help people within educational settings. And these kind of examples of projects that have been delivered have been really positive in terms of Practice Europe and its portfolio. So this particular project, supporting civil society dialogue between EU and Turkey. So you'll be, like I said, you'll be seeing a lot of talks from different experts around different areas. So I'm not going to talk about it particularly in any great detail, but it's been really enjoyable working on the Building Bridges for Inclusive Education project for the last couple of years now. A couple of years ago, I myself visited Istanbul, and we did a presentation around a British perspective on how people were experiencing inclusiveness and issues around disability within education. So, for example, what were the role of teaching assistants? I think Dr. Bob Bates spoke about this yesterday a little bit, so you probably already had some of that feedback there. But yeah, so one quote I just want to share was from this kind of project: inclusive education, also known as inclusion, is education that can include everybody, or should include everybody, whether it's people who are class themselves as non-disabled and disabled people, people with other abilities, and including those with what we call here in the UK SEN, which is special education needs, and with the core aim of learning together in mainstream schools, colleges and universities. And this whole kind of project has been about looking at that in greater detail, cross-comparative, trying to find out what's happening in Turkey, Croatia, and sharing our experiences in the UK. So just to kind of summarize some of the work that we have done over the last few years. So back in 2015, over the couple of years period, Practice Europe hosted 271 Europeans in Birmingham from across different locations, such as Italy, Hungary, Bulgaria, Turkey, the Netherlands, and so on, around Erasmus programs. And we had over 74 UK learners who took part in the weeks of Erasmus projects and training during that time, and they received something called a Youth Pass certificate, which is normally provided when people participate in Erasmus programs. So it helps people with motivating them and something that they can include in their portfolio, for example, if they're applying for jobs or different kinds of things as they go along with their career. And Practice Europe has created a lot of opportunities for over 100 learners on 2-week programs working around vocational education in a variety of industries such as hospitality, photography and media. And over 100 learners were provided with youth training, youth exchange opportunities across Europe. And we worked with over 260 adult learners during the period of 2014 and 2017. And some of the projects are wide and diverse, like I mentioned, like the one that we're doing right now, as well as other fields as well. So thank you so much for listening to the presentation. Sorry about the sound, but if you do have any questions, you can always email us or check out the website. And we have maybe some time now to take some questions from the floor.
Yes, dear Majid, thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to open the floor for the questions, but meanwhile, maybe I can ask you a question, since we are talking about civil society dialogue and how actually European Union is supporting that. I was just thinking, like after the Brexit, maybe you will just drop out some programs, etc. So as an expert in the field, I would like to ask you how so far, like these projects like civil society dialogue programs likewise were helping you in order to achieve some goals, and what are the things you are afraid of that you might lose, like when not becoming really part of this community anymore?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, obviously Brexit has caused a lot of issues across the UK, and we have been affected directly as organizations that deal with European funded projects, the Erasmus program, this particular program, like you mentioned, And we were disappointed, and we were hoping that something could be rectified. And how that would pan out, we've been basically discovering over the last couple of years or so. Now, I think that this particular program has been really, really helpful in terms of us as practitioners, as people who work in the third sector in the UK, in terms of the learning, in terms of the people that we've worked with, and the multiplier effect. So people that have been involved in some of the mobilities in this program, but also wider programs around Erasmus Plus, for example. That kind of learning has been multiplied, and losing that opportunity is going to be really difficult for British organisations moving forward. However, we do know that there's a new program called the Turing Scheme, which is being introduced in the United Kingdom. I think over the last few months, the first kind of rounds have come through. Some of the actual programs itself is only limited to certain kind of elements, um, such as vocational education for younger people. So we're actually waiting to see if the UK government might go back on some of those things and actually support and fund more projects like this, or if there's other opportunities from wider field from other funders that could support this. I really believe strongly in these kind of programs, and I believe the skills, the knowledge transfer that occurs, and the opportunities that happen are really beneficial for holistically for practitioners, for young people, for parents, for educators, for funders even, because the feedback they receive can really help progress with the society, whether we're talking about inclusive education, vocational education, adult education, whatever the field might be. These type of programs are imperative and crucial